Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Monday. Brian Kamenetzky, Andy Kamenetzky. The Lakers kick off a critical 4-game road trip for a critical stretch run tonight in Orlando. JJ Redick says they need to reconnect. Break it down next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday. No matter how or where you get your podcasts, it's always free, never behind paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where 34,000 subscribers, Andy, are hoping the Lakers bounce back from a terrible game on Saturday against the Bulls. A huge blowout despite Lebron returning, Rui Hachimura returning. Lakers pretty much full strength in that game and did not deliver a good performance. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about LeBron James saying that the Lakers hold their destiny in their hands. They just got to win some games. And JJ Redick, of course, talking about the need for the team to reconnect quickly starting tonight in Orlando. Doing to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Obviously, Andy, that game on Saturday was just awful on every level. Lakers didn't play well, particularly defensively as a team. And it was interesting to hear the reaction after the game, whether you're talking in the locker room with LeBron James, at the podium from JJ Redick, as they head out to a tricky 4-game road trip starting against Orlando. 3 playoff teams in these 4 games.
Plus the Bulls, who just beat them, although, as I pointed out during Saturday's mini post-game show, the Bulls are considerably better on the road than in the United Center. So in theory, they got the better version of the Bulls out of the way already. That being said, as I also pointed out, this Bulls team that will, for the love of God, never just tear it down and rebuild. They are always trying to stay in that proverbial 9 or 10 seed. So
yeah, and I should correct myself to your point. It's actually, if you count the play-in as a playoff, it's all 4 teams are competing for postseason berths. Right. I was excluding the Bulls because I don't really think of them as very good, but they are in fact a playoff team in the East. Ugh.
Well, they are a play-in team in the East, which allows you to not be very good and still hold that status. It's one of those both things can be true at once type situations. They're going to have a back-to-back, Indiana and Chicago. It's Orlando on Monday, Indiana Wednesday, Chicago Thursday, Memphis Saturday. So there's one back-to-back. There's, like you said, 3 out of 4 teams currently in the true playoff mix, and all of them are going to have something to play for. So it reinforces the idea of the, I guess, PC way of putting it, reconnecting quickly. The less PC way of putting it, but still allowable for this show, get your proverbial bleep together quickly.
Yeah. It's, look, I mean, from a newsy standpoint, the Lakers are, I think at this point, about as healthy as they are going to be. If you look at the injury report for Monday's game, Luka's not on it. So, that is a very positive development there. He had at least been popping up on it as questionable, as probable, as whatever. He's not even on the thing. LeBron is probable. So he came through the game on Saturday. He didn't play particularly well, certainly by his standards. But he came through it fine. And so,
that was one of the things that I talked about in that show is I thought LeBron got better as the game went along, but certainly the first half, he looked completely out of rhythm. Frankly, just like the rest of the team that was completely disjointed. But I thought he got better as the game went along. But the most important thing to me was he looked healthy. He looked lively. He looked active. He did not look like he was holding anything back physically.
You almost called him spry, which is what we call old people when they're moving around quickly.
Well, I'm not going to do that. Spry folks don't have people debate whether or not they could be all NBA. So I'm going to
not often.
I'm going to hold off referring to him. Nobody talked about Kevin Willis that way. So I'm going to hold off on whether or not he is spry. But I did think it was important that LeBron looked. He may not have played like LeBron or what you expect from LeBron, but he looked like LeBron. And to me, that was much more important because
I agree 100%.
I am not worried at all about LeBron not getting his timing back.
No, I agree. The only real wrinkle in any of this from a health standpoint is Rui, who is questionable for Monday in Orlando. And you get the impression, he said after the game that he's not, 100%, he's 70, 80% is what he said. And basically doesn't expect to be that with the knee tendinopathy. It's not something that's going to really settle down until he has a more significant break. Like, he'd love to rest and get it better. As he said, we don't have that kind of time. So he's able to play. They're not going to make it worse necessarily by playing, but I think he is now in that official going to be questionable basically for every game, probably misses one or two at least. Or, I would expect him to not necessarily play in every game between now and the end of the season, but this is about as healthy as the Lakers are going to get. I think this is it. And so you've got to, like with JJ, you got to get it together. And I like these games after horrible ones because they are that sort of prove it. What are we doing here? And generally, I think the Lakers have responded pretty well in these situations over the course of the season, certainly since they've turned their play around. But this is, in my opinion, at least, definitely one of those against a good team that will be playing hard, or at least a former that's been playing hard.
Absolutely. But going to get more into that, obviously, over the course of the show. Really wanted to quickly comment, though, with Rui. The idea of him being 70 to 80% right now. Maybe it gets a bit better, but Rui did not. If anything, he was in serious under promise, over deliver, hopefully mode when it came to his knee. It makes me think that 70 to 80% as far as the rest of the season could be where he tops out. Mm-hmm. And that's obviously an issue because I personally consider Rui the fourth best player on this team. And I think Rui can be one of the more, valuable X factors on this team. He can be really good at either forcing mismatches or benefiting from the mismatches that get created by all the focus on LeBron and Luka and Austin. And if you don't have that version of Rui, or at least, 70 to 80% of Rui, which becomes not as good of a player as you need, you're going to need production, like counting stats, tangible production, because Rui is a scorer first to come from other places. I am honestly looking in your direction, Dorian Finney-Smith, but there's going to be other guys as well. Like DFS to me is the natural guy, because I think he's on that tier with Rui, although Jackson Hayes has been playing in a way that he may feel like he's reached that level as well. But
right, but not nearly.
DFS is going to be on the
not that type of. Jackson Hayes can't create his own offense. Rui can't.
Sure. No, yeah. I meant in terms of I meant on the level of DFS in terms of potentially providing points, and DFS is similar in a lot of ways to Jackson in the sense that for the most part his offense has to be created for him as well. He needs to be knocking down more
perimeter version of that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he needs to be knocking down more threes.
The other thing that I think is interesting about Rui, we'll pick up on this LeBron thing and Redick's comments after the game on Saturday, after the break. But the other thing that I think is interesting about this is, what do you do with him? If he is somewhat limited, does it limit him defensively? Because that is a huge question with how you use Rui, where like he has been with this group that sort of raised its level a little bit to where his defense, while not always awesome, is more attentive. It fits into the system. He is, I think, generally adhering to the principles and doing what they're asking him to do. If he's a little bit limited mobility wise, that could be affected by that. And then I wonder if there is a kind of a cap on how much he can play. They started DFS on Saturday? Do you stay with that, even though Rui had played quite well? We were all anticipating a starting lineup change that never came. I'm wondering if now that becomes something they do. So I'll ask you that, and we'll get into LeBron next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where the hell did all my money go? Like, between dining out and online shopping, entertainment's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts and investments and spending all in one place, so you can stop managing your money, start building wealth. You can enjoy convenience instead of juggling multiple apps. You can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan long-term goals. You can enjoy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, even stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off of your first year.
Andy, Locked On Lakers is not just a podcast, a hit podcast, dare I say, that you can subscribe to on iTunes, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. It's not just a YouTube channel that has exploded in popularity, 34,000 subscribers. It's also a newsletter, and you can go to lockedondaily.com, subscribe to it by clicking on the Locked On Lakers icon there, and then this show and a lot of great NBA analysis delivered to you every day of the work week. So do that, and you're helping us, you're helping yourself. Everyone wins. What do you, if you think there's a limit and you kind of can't play Rui in the same way that you were before, would you continue to try to start him, 2 or 3 games from now once he gets his rhythm right, and in theory he's more the Rui that he has been over the course of the season? Because he did thrive in that starting role, with Luka, post Luka and all that.
Well, I mean, first of all, if what really matters is what I think JJ is going to do. And I think if Rui is limited to 15, 20, 22 minutes a night, I think he's going to keep starting DFS, unless DFS is also limited, which we have seen at times. JJ's ability to play him. He's had that problematic ankle that was something he was dealing with in Brooklyn, much less since the Lakers traded for him. But it seems like, because JJ's talked a few times about how he had mulled over that debate between Rui and DFS who would start, but the limited minutes that he felt like he could play DFS played a role in starting Rui. It wasn't the whole thing. He noted Rui's played really well, and he hasn't necessarily done anything to deserve losing the spot. But also the fact that he didn't feel like he could play DFS the minutes that he would want to with the starters, made him feel like he would be able to use him, I guess, with the most flexibility or the best usage of him coming off the bench. If Rui is limited, then really limited, like we're talking 15, 20 minutes, something like that.
What did he play on Saturday? I mean, pull up that number, but
he played, I believe, 18. He played 18 minutes.
Yeah.
And
which you get makes sense. First game back after 3 weeks or whatever.
Right. The reason we're even speculating about this at all, Mike Trudell, Spectrum Sportsnet sideline reporter, said that he would be on a minutes limit that night. He didn't say anything about a minutes limit moving forward, but if his knee is at 70 to 80% and may not get any better, that might just place a cap on how much you can play him before he potentially re-injures the knee. And if that's the case, I actually feel like you might be able to get a better or a more effective version of Rui coming off the bench. Tell him, play 15 to 20 minutes as hard as you can, and we'll handle everything else. And you might be able to get him in more kind of condensed spurts If his minutes can increase, even if it's 70 to 80%, if they feel confident enough to play him 25 to 30 minutes, then I'm guessing he's playing well enough to merit that much playing time. And if he's going to merit that much playing time, I would probably just put him back in the starting lineup. But I think a lot of this is really going to depend on how much can you play Rui.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think your point about, what is the way that you can get the most out of him? Where do you get, 100% of the potential for whatever it is that Rui can give you, versus longer, more minutes, but at a lower level of production. He's averaging 32 minutes a night on the season. I agree with you. If he can end up back to a place where he can play 32 minutes a night, and either if he's in the lineup that night, he can go play, wakes up the next day, see what he feels like. Maybe the next day he has to sit. I don't know. But I think if I would keep him in there. I'm surprised saying that, but just because empirically it's just kind of worked. And I think his fit there has worked. And with DFS being so inconsistent as that floor spacing player, obviously you're getting the defense there with him that you don't necessarily get from Rui. But that floor spacing and then the ability to attack the rim, which Rui certainly provides, the ability to get off a shot if you do end up in a late clock situation. I like the way that looks. And I could see them defaulting back to what had been working for them because they've shown they can play defense that way. Yeah. Do you want to talk about LeBron's sort of destiny controlling comments first or JJ's comments? They are related, I think.
I was going to say, I feel like one way or another, we're going to end up getting.
Oh, for sure.
Well, if they don't reconnect, that's part of controlling or not controlling their destiny and potentially not avoiding the play-in. So it's all part and parcel of the same thing.
But I know when we were, talking about the show before, like LeBron's reaction is kind of exactly what you would expect in terms of really breaking down what the schedule is. It's a hard challenge, but if we win games, we will rise up in the standings. If the goal is at the very least an opening round, Redick still calls it, the stay out of the play-in as like the primary goal. But he was asked about, would you like to host a first round matchup? And it's very clear the Lakers have raised that, to the level of like, this is what we think we can do. And this is what we ought to be able to accomplish. LeBron said if we win games, we will certainly finish in the top four just based on who they play. They play Houston twice. If you beat Houston twice, you're going to finish in the top four. If you're winning your other games. I was a little surprised at the way
that matter playing Memphis on Saturday helps keep if you win helps keep you in the top four.
You win those games along with
they're in an almost statistical tie with Memphis.
You finish this, so they've got 12 games left. If you win 8 of them, and 3 of them are the games against Memphis and Houston, good chance of finishing in the top 4. I was a little surprised at the way Redick handled the game on Saturday in terms of the way he talked about it. Not that he was he didn't dismiss it, but he also didn't light up his team. It was an interesting way to handle it, I thought.
We're obviously going to get more in depth on it after the break, but I'd say a good way to summarize it, at least for me, and I talked a bit about this Saturday after the loss, but I liked how JJ talked about it, and I'd say summarize it this way. We can talk about it more specifically. I think he didn't make it into a bigger deal than it was on Saturday, but also didn't make it into a smaller deal than it was. I think he treated it with the exact urgency and importance that it merited in either direction. And I mentioned this on Saturday, but I'll say it again. We'll talk about it. I really liked how JJ framed everything that I think went into this loss without blowing it up or sugarcoating it. I thought he walked successfully a really good line. Yeah,
it was, if you missed his comments, he talked about, he kind of turned the question of did did you not take the Bulls seriously? Did you relax because everybody was getting back in the lineup? To some degree, you kind of turned it back on the players. Like, you can go ask them, and make them responsible for what they did or didn't do. And the Lakers, it's not like they were like, as a team, you listen to LeBron, those guys talk about it. They obviously think it's not representative of what they can do as a team. They also were like, we were awful. Like, this was not, and it's not acceptable. And I think he also, if he missed it, he made it clear that it's hard to just jump right back, and they maybe assumed that it would just look like it did before guys started to get hurt and the lineup got discombobulated, but they don't have the time to kind of ease back into it. Like, whatever that stuff was, they've all got to lock in and find it now, because there's no time. Like, I think your way of framing it is perfect. Like, he didn't overplay it, but he didn't underplay it either. So we'll talk a little bit more about it next. I am so excited to watch them play this game. Like, I am probably looking forward to this game in Orlando, because the Magic were great at the beginning of the season. Remember when they lost to Orlando, when we were like, it was sort of like when they lost to Detroit. We were like, oh my God, this is terrible. And then that game looks a little bit bad. Like, Orlando was awesome at the beginning of the year. Banchero gets hurt, and they completely went off the rails. Franz Wagner was hurt for a long time. Like, they are back to, as sort of like the Lakers, as healthy as they're going to be. Banchero has been incredible for the last 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yep.
He is a difficult matchup for any team. He's going to put pressure on the Lakers defense in interesting ways. Wagner's a very good player. I am excited to watch them go play a road game against a very motivated opponent after that game on Saturday, after such a bad game on Saturday. Like, I am probably looking forward to this game as much as any game all season long. Other than
Magic.
Other than hey, Luka's here.
I like watching the Magic play just because they're an unusual team. Like, they're very big. They do a lot of their ball handling through the front court. They're kind of like a counterintuitive, weird team that I think is just
Wagner and Banchero are both very good passers.
Yeah, I just find them interesting to watch just because they're very different. The way JJ, you had mentioned, like, the idea of whether or not the team was complacent at all, like the idea of after this 3-week slog of, always missing LeBron and Rui, Luka in and out of the lineup, DFS in and out of the lineup, Austin missing a game or two, Vando in and out, Gabe in and out. Like, that's a lot to deal with, especially with a lot of those games on the road, 6 games in 8 days. Like, you finally get everybody back, and there can be a natural inclination to take a breath and exhale, particularly if you're taking on a team like the Bulls, which could be easy to dismiss. Given, like we said earlier, they're a play-in team in the East, which by definitions mean you're not
10 games under 500. They came into that game 10 games under 500.
Right. Although, and after that win, 500 on the road. They're way better on the road than at home. But JJ, I don't remember exactly if he brought it up on. Yeah, he was sort of asked about it, but he said, quote, the disposition and the mentality, I don't know if we assumed because we had everybody back, it was just going to be like it was 3 weeks ago, and that's not the way it works. I think the guys know that. I'm not saying that's what they assumed. You have to ask them that. That's JJ saying, yeah, I think that's what happened, but not putting them on blast. However, he is forcing the issue, and he wanted them to be asked about this. He wanted them to be held accountable. Mm-hmm. Like, he talked, and this is what I was getting at when I was saying I thought he walked a really good line of reinforcing the importance of that can't happen again, but also understanding I know on some level why it happened, and these are human beings. It's not always going to be perfect. I played in the league. I know how hard this stuff can be. Bleep's going to happen every now and then. It just can't happen again. And, talking about the importance of, as he said, we have to reconnect in Orlando, like now. He's like, it has to happen right now. He was in no way downplaying the significance of that loss and how disconnected they looked and the importance of getting back on track and rediscovering that cohesiveness. But he expressed full confidence that they can do it. And he's like, disconnection can happen when you've had this many guys literally disconnected. Like, it's not shocking. We just don't have any luxury of time to rediscover it. So everybody gets back to work immediately. And I thought that was a perfect tone. He didn't make it into a bigger deal than it was, but he didn't treat it like a small deal either.
I think too, it's like, it's a challenge to them. And, you hear LeBron in the locker room, these guys, I think these guys get it. You are now led by LeBron James, who has been to how many finals?
1 or 9,
8, 9,
10.
10.
He's been to 10 finals.
That's a lot. It's a lot of finals.
Yeah, there was 8. It was 8 in a row with Miami and Cleveland. Then there was the other one in Cleveland, then the one with the Lakers.
And you've got Luka, who's been to finals, and he's been deep in the playoffs multiple times. Like, these guys understand this stuff. Gabe Vincent is not a young flaky player. He's steeped in Heat culture. Like, they get this stuff too. Dorian Finney-Smith. These are it. It is a challenge though to them that I think is really worthy. It's why I'm so excited to watch this game, because if there is any sense that this team thinks it can kind of coast a little bit, or feels like, whatever, 2 seed, 3 seed, 5 seed, whatever, but we're
Lakers
okay.
in 5.
Yeah, we're fine. As long as
the meme with LeBron and the 9 cigarettes and the do-rag, Lakers in 5.
If there's any sense of that, and I don't think there is.
I don't think there is either.
But if there is any sense of it, we will see it in Orlando. We will see it, if not in Orlando, we will see it on this road trip where maybe they come out and get super impressed, go out, play a good game against Orlando and prove to themselves, this is still in our bag. I will say most of the bad games they've played, whether based on the schedule, bad luck, or whatever, have been against the bad teams. They've tended to play much better against better competition of late. And so I think they're going to show out on this road trip. I am optimistic about it. But we will find out. These are not easy games. Even the Bulls game, the very least, the Bulls are going to enter that game with full confidence that they can play with the Lakers because they just beat them by 30 something. So, Indiana is playing really hard. Obviously, that game in Memphis is massive for the Lakers, and I fully expect Ja Morant to be back because that's how it works, just in time. But we'll see. In the meantime, Andy, Jordan Goodwin, they're running out of games. We've been talking about this, who's getting converted and when is going to happen thing. Jordan Goodwin's going to be converted soon. And I will let you guess who you think is going to get released to make it happen. But
I think it's going to be Cam Reddish. I talked on Saturday about how Dalton Connect, there was so much bleep happening during that bleep show of a game. I did not even notice until the fourth quarter that Dalton had not played to that point. And had the game been closer, it's pretty obvious Dalton was going to be a DNP-CD. And I talked afterwards about the potential implications of that moving forward. The other thing, though, that I did not notice until right around that time with Dalton and having not entered the game, I just noticed at that point that Cam Reddish wasn't even active, that is different from even when they've had the full roster. Typically, when they've had the full roster, Cam's been active even if he hasn't played. he was not active.
He's not always wearing a uniform under that sweatsuit, but he is active.
This feels like a precursor to him eventually being waived. He feels like the most obvious candidate because he's the guy that plays the least of everybody. Like, even when you account for garbage time, Cam doesn't play. I've actually asked around a little bit, trying to get a feel for whether Cam not playing even in garbage time is Cam's own choice, because this happens with veteran players. And Cam's, I think, been in the league now 5 or 6 years, something like that, long enough to be considered a veteran. And sometimes veteran players don't like playing in garbage time. And coaches will recognize that and ask that player, do you want to play? And I have wondered before if Cam has told JJ, I don't want to play. I want to make it clear, I do not know. But the reason I've even been asking around at all is because I'm a little bit fascinated by just how little he played. Like, it's striking. It's honestly striking how little Cam plays. Like, again, when they empty the bench and you start seeing Bronny go in and Shake if he hasn't played at that point, and whichever backup big has barely played, and Alex Len and whoever, like, Cam never plays. But that feels, again, like he would end up the most natural candidate for Goodwin taking that spot. But make no mistake, Jordan Goodwin's going to, even with, in the past, some of the criticism we've levied at Rob Pelinka for not minding the smaller details or prioritizing enough the 8th or 9th man on this team.
No, I think they've got this one. It
would in its own right be as shocking as the Luka trade.
Yeah, because people may not realize, like, there's for two-way guys that are signed after a certain point of the year where there aren't enough games, the 50 that you're allowed if you're the two-way guy at the beginning of the year is prorated throughout, for the, on a whatever ratio of games to remaining games, it's prorated for the rest of the season based on when you're signed. And Goodwin's down, I think, now to 2 games before that contract needs to be converted. So it is coming. And if you have any messages that you want to deliver, make sure get delivered to Cam Reddish, I would do that soon. I would not wait on that.
I mean, you could find him on Twitter or whatever.
Like, you want to do it through the organization.
Okay.
If you want to see him in uniform, or at least with the team, you might need to go to Orlando or Indiana, because I don't think he's going to be on the team when they get back from the trip.
It's quite possible. I mean, like I was saying, it would be in its own right as shocking as the Doncic trade if the Lakers ultimately did not immediately convert Goodwin, because, putting aside the whole he's in the rotation thing, why would you not convert the contract of a guy playing like 20 minutes a night? It also raises the question of, if you're not going to convert him, why even put him in the rotation, get everybody used to playing with him, and then you have to account for whatever the new rotation is going to be. Frankly, at that point, you start asking questions like, why haven't you been playing Cam Reddish? You know what I mean? Or somebody. Like, it would be truly bizarre if they did not convert Goodwin. It's coming. And
they need to. I mean, what he's brought to the team, I don't know the 3-point shooting is going to hold up necessarily. He's a career 31% 3-point shooter. He has far exceeded that with the Lakers. I don't want to say I don't care. I do care, because Jordan Goodwin shooting like that makes him a completely different NBA player. So I care, but it's also not the only thing he brings. There's a grit and a toughness, and he's an excellent rebounder at his position.
He's so good at his size.
He's a strong on-ball defender. He adds a lot to what they are doing. And even if the shot cools off a little bit, I think I can live with that. They can certainly live with it. And he's bounced around the league a little bit, and it seems at least like he's found a really good fit here. And so we talk about it with our Austin Reeves. Do they need to be the 3rd best player? Does he need to be the 5th best player? Like, would he play as well on another team? I don't know. He's playing well here. He fits here. And this is where he's playing right now. So that's what matters. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 34,000 subscribers, Andy, all of whom will be waiting. They don't have to wait long if they're on the West Coast because it's an early game. I think it's 4:00 tip on the West Coast. We will be back after that game. We'll try to get the maybe the YouTube show up a little bit earlier than normal since it's such an early game and give everybody a chance to react to it. We'll see everyone after the game.